A little over 2 weeks from now, the first votes in the 2024 presidential campaign will be cast at Republican caucuses in Iowa. Recent CBS News polling shows former President Trump holds an overwhelming lead among Iowa's GOP voters. Meanwhile, national polls show a close race between the frontrunners. Trump's lead over President Biden is within the margin of error. Here to look ahead at what to expect in 2024 are two CBS News political contributors. Joel Payne is Chief Communications Officer for the liberal advocacy group Move On. Terry Sullivan is a former campaign manager for Republican Senator Marco Rubio. Good morning. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
So let's get to the big political headlines in just the last 24 hours. Terry, the Secretary of State in Maine, as you know, has joined the Colorado Supreme Court in saying that Donald Trump should be barred from the primary ballot. And there are challenges in dozens of states across the country that are pending. What's your take?
Let me guess, those states are all very Democrat-leaning states, right? Am I
no,
right?
Texas.
Okay.
I mean, and we saw what California said. He was eligible.
Well, right, but it's like the gift that keeps on giving for Donald Trump in that when his big argument is a rigged election and then you're saying voters aren't allowed to vote for him, I mean, that kind of goes to his point. Whether it's the rule of law or not, at the end of the day, he's going to be a major party's nominee for President of the United States and telling the voters in that state, you're not allowed to vote for him. I mean, that does seem a little bit rigged, and it seems highly political that it's happening just now as he becomes the major party nominee.
So, Joel, your take, because it does, to Terry's point, seem that he's able to fundraise off of every one of these indictments or anything that happens legally to him and to his campaign. He's making money off and he's getting people.
I mean, Vlad, he can fundraise off anything. I mean, he quoted Hitler a few weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure he fundraised off of that. I mean, I don't know if I would use that as the governor for whether or not the system of legal accountability should go forward. I do think there's legal accountability and political accountability for Donald Trump. And I think anybody who wants political accountability for Donald Trump should not count on the legal system. Those things are going to play out. They should play out. The rule of law should play out. But ultimately, if you're someone like me who believes in a different vision of the world than Donald Trump, I think you're going to have to beat him at the ballot box and not in a courtroom.
Let's talk about Nikki Haley for a moment, because she had real momentum going in the race going into that moment in New Hampshire. I have three questions for you. One, why was the question on the Civil War and its cause so fraught for her? Two, what's your take on it? And three, now her response.
Love the numbered questions. I would say this. You know, the fact that she had to tie herself in knots to answer the question like that, to me, is the point. I'm not here to judge Nikki Haley and what her heart says about those issues. If you look at it, she actually, she took a pretty bold stand in South Carolina to pull down the Confederate flag, right? So she can claim that. But the fact that she felt like the voting pool in the Republican Party needed to hear that tortured of an answer on the Civil War.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, I think that tells you about what her political weaknesses are perceived by her team and what the political analysis she's doing about what this political moment says for Republicans who are trying to put a winning coalition together. And that's the problem. They don't feel like their voters can hear the truth as we all know it.
Yeah, I think sometimes the answer is a lot more simple. It's not chess, it's checkers. And the reality is these candidates are spread super thin. I know Joe Biden never makes missteps or says stupid things on the stump at all. But look, the reality is it was a terrible answer. And it cost her politically. But how it cost her is not because everybody thinks she's somehow a closet segregationist or racist. It's that this is the momentum she had. To your point, she had real momentum. And now she's spending time, valuable time, just a few weeks before the Iowa caucuses, explaining, backpedaling, and this is more about is she ready for prime time? Is she ready? It's one thing when you're the underdog candidate and nobody gives you a chance kind of thing. But when you're the candidate who the spotlight is on and things get hot, and we've been there. We've had candidates who are underdogs who then suddenly got propelled. It happened for Rubio in 2016. And when that light gets really, really bright, and that's what we're seeing for Nikki, and she's withering a little bit under that light.
It seems like she wilted under the scrutiny a little bit, not just with these recent comments about the Civil War, but also recently she's had some futzy answers related to abortion rights. She's talked about signing a 6-week ban. While, there might be a portion of the Republican electorate that wants that, the lane that she's going down, that's not what her answer should be right now. And I think that the spotlight, the elevated scrutiny, has really taken its toll on Nikki Haley.
Well, I want to get to another subject matter because we love polls, right? And we have a recent one that just came out, Joel, that shows President Biden losing a close race to former President Trump. What does that tell you about where the Democratic Party is and what topics they really need to hit on as they move forward.
Tells me we're 11 months away from the election. It's hard to simulate a forced choice scenario 11 months from now. If you look at those numbers that we showed at the beginning of the segment here, 46, 44, that doesn't represent the full electorate. That's not what the win or lose numbers for either candidate are going to look like. Also, the fall off that Biden's experienced has been from traditional Democratic voting groups, African-American voters, Latinos, young voters. Those are folks who are going to typically come home. So that doesn't mean that Democrats shouldn't be concerned.
They need to vote.
For sure.
Right.
That doesn't mean that Democrats don't need to be concerned. It does, however, mean there's a path to victory for Trump that still exists. And I think his team's pretty confident they can get there.
But every losing campaign says the only poll that matters is on election day.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right,
like at the end of the day, it's not just the national polls he's behind in, it's every swing state poll. And it's not just the Trump, it's to the lesser candidates in the Republican primary, too. He is losing swing state after swing state in polling, and that is a fundamental problem for him. He's got a record to run on. Last time, he just had to not be Donald Trump. This time, he's got to defend his record, and that's going to be tough for him. And he's not as young as he used to be.
Really quickly, the election day polls that we saw in 2022 and 2023, Joe Biden and his allies were victorious, and I think that matters, too.
Well, I would love to keep talking about this because we have so much to say, but Joel Payne and Terry Sullivan, thank you so much for being here.